There is a lot to learn about investing and managing your money, and you will need to start somewhere and sometime. So, if you haven't started, take this video as your first step, or if you have started, then use this video to broaden your horizon. We will be covering everything from architecture of wealth to the guilt free liability framework. Here's a question for you: why do you think wealth is measured by net worth and not by income alone? Well, for that, income is simply the money flowing into your bank account, and net worth is the money that stays there. To calculate the net worth, you will need the formula total asset minus total liability. What I want to say from this is high income doesn't make you wealthy, because income is simply the money flowing into your bank account, and net worth is the actual money that stays there. To have wealth, you need to have net worth. So this person, he earns $500,000 and he actually spent $550,000, leaving him in negative $50,000. Comparatively, this person, even though he earned way less than $500,000, he only earned $60,000, but still he spends roughly $45,000, saving him $15,000. So you need to be like this. You need to actually save the money. But to build wealth, you can't just start saving money and throwing it in a stock market. No, you need to first build a defensive architecture so that you can actually save up that money in the time of emergency. If not, it will cause a huge blunder. Yeah, first of all, you need to sort out your essential living costs. Let's take TV subscription for example. Suppose I watch dramas, and I personally like watching K drama, Chinese drama, and all that. I am using Wiki for now. The reason for that is in Wiki there are lots of Chinese drama and Korean dramas. I can also use Netflix, I can also use IQVIA and all sorts of subscription platform, but I'm not using them. Why? Because my essential living cost requires me to watch TV, as that reduces my anxiety, it reduces my depression and all sort of thing. But that does not mean that it requires me to buy subscription of every single service there is on internet. That's why I only have subscription of Wiki, because it gives me almost 80% of whatever I want to watch. You have sorted out your 1 month of essential living cost, and what you need to do is you need to save up roughly 6 to 12 months worth of that in a high yield saving account or a fixed deposit. If you are going to save in a fixed deposit, remember that your fixed deposit does not have a breakage penalty. Basically, breakage penalty is when you plan on breaking your fixed deposit before the time of its maturity. Some banks charges you penalty. You don't want that, because we don't want our money to go to any penalty and any sort of place and just reduce its value. Why I am saying 6 to 12 months? Well, because suppose if your income is stable, you can save up roughly 6 times the essential living cost, and if your income is unstable, means it's volatile, it is much better to save roughly a year's worth of essential living cost in case something happens, in case your income drops. And make sure to not save in a basic saving account, because that will generally give you 1, 2 or maybe 3% of return. A high yield saving account will generally give you somewhere around 3 to 5% or sometimes 7%, but that's a very rare case. I always prefer fixed deposit. Yeah, you do have to pay taxes on fixed deposit, but you can manage it somehow. And one more thing, you will need a health insurance. Now, why do you need a health insurance? Basic simple explanation will be, suppose something happens, you got a medical bill. Now you have saved up roughly $20,000 and you spend that $20,000 on your first medical bill. After a year or after half a month or maybe 2 or 3 months, that illness comes back. You again need a surgery, but now you don't have that $20,000. Where will you get the money from? You will either need to sell your house, maybe jewelry, maybe something related to ancestors or things like that. But if you had the health insurance, that will get renewed and you will easily be able to have your surgery. Obviously, you need to have a reputable health insurance that don't actually screws you up in the time of need. With this, we have completed our defensive architecture. Now we can move on to our offensive method. First of all, let me make one thing clear, that I never prefer having short-term investment or intraday trading type of investment. The reason for that being is, in intraday trading, you pay a lot of hidden fees and lot of taxes. Plus, only 1 to 3% of population are even able to actually beat the return you will get from long-term investment. So that's just not worth the risk, because in intraday you will have to sit on the computer screen throughout the day, check the market and monitor it. There is a lot of stress and lot of knowledge you need for that. For any normal person, it is much better to just go with a long-term investment, and it is not bad. Let me show you. So this is the formula for compound interest. A is equal to P1 plus R to the power T. Forget everything, just remember that T is the exponent. See, this dash line is the amount you have invested, the principal amount. This shaded area is the return you have gotten, and this blue line is the total amount you have, means the principal amount plus the interest. So in 8 years you have invested roughly around $100,000 and you have gotten roughly around $150,000, means your total portfolio value is $150,000 and the return you have got is $50,000. In 8 years you have gotten $50,000. Now let's go to just increase it to 2 years more. In 2 years, means in a decade mark, you have invested roughly around $120,000 and your total portfolio value is $200,000. It took you roughly 8 years to get that $50,000 worth of return, but in just 2 more years you got another $50,000. This is why time is exponent. If you keep on investing for long term, minimum a decade, your total investment will look like this. Your principal amount will be less than the interest you have gotten. You will get more interest compared to the principal you have invested, and that is the magic part about the exponent time. To better explain this, I also need to explain to you the snowball effect. Think of this as a total return you have gotten. When you start, that return will be small, but as the time passes by, it will keep on growing. It will keep on growing, and in a decade mark, it will start becoming huge to the point that your return will be much more than a principal invested. That is why we need to invest in long term, and that is the main reason we don't want to remove this money when it is in its growing phase. We don't want to stop its momentum, because suppose you pull $10,000 today, you might think that you just removed $10,000, but no, in our 2 decade mark, you have actually removed the potential of $80,000. That's why we set up the defensive architecture in the previous part. One of the most important things we need to manage in investment is the human behavioral risk. Basically, our impulse, our greed, our pride, the urge to panic sell everything when the stock market crashes, that is the fear, or the urge to buy trendy, speculative asset at its absolute peak because your neighbors are getting rich, that is greed. You cannot outsmart your own impulses because they are driven by millions years of evolution. Instead, you manage them by building systems that remove willpower entirely. Now, to remove our behavioral risk, the risk our emotion creates, we need to set up these three things: automation, the friction, and the information diet. What does automation mean? When a specific amount comes to your bank account, you set an amount that, suppose $2,000 will get swept into another investment account. So as soon as the money reaches your account, it will just automatically get swept into another account. You can also set up automation there where it will automatically get invested in the index fund you choose. You need to introduce friction so that you don't overspend. Let me give you an example of my food eating habits. So I love eating food, but when I order food online, I order 3 chocolava, a burger, a pizza, maybe taco, and all sort of things. I only enjoy the taste of them in first 3 bite, and after that I am just stuffing my mouth because I don't want to feel the guilt of wasting food. If I had just simply bought a single chocolava or maybe a slice of pizza, I would have saved the money. I wouldn't have to feel the guilt. I would have gotten the taste, and my stomach also won't feel bad. That's why we need friction. So what I did to create this friction, that I set in mind that if I somehow I feel hungry and I want to crave something, I want to eat, I will go to a restaurant, I will dine in. I will do not do any sort of takeout, and that actually help. So you need to introduce some sort of friction, and the next step is information. That the thing is, when you always keep on watching news about the stock markets, that this stock is going up, this stock is collapsing, you are in always a state of panic. We don't want our emotions to take control of our body. That's why it is much better to just automate your investment, set up a friction, and forget about it. There is a term called diminishing marginal utility. As you consume more of the same thing, the satisfaction you get from each additional unit drops dramatically to zero or even negative. Suppose you got a full pizza, you ate the first slice, you are feeling happy, you are feeling good, your diminishing marginal utility is at its peak. You ate another slice and now you are feeling full, but yes, still happy. Now you ate the third slice, now you have started to feel a bit bloated. You are not feeling good, you are sweating heavily, and by the final slice you are just not happy, you are feeling anxious. We always need our diminishing marginal utility to be in this region or maybe even this region, but never in negative, because the fifth slice also cost you the same as the first slice, but you felt much better in the first slice, not in the fifth slice. If you had just bought the first slice, you would have saved the money, you would have still felt better, you wouldn't have felt this bloated, anxious, increase in heart rate, sweaty, and just guilty all over. Plus, you lost your extra money, which could have been your investable surplus. That's why I'm showing you some more tips you can use to add the friction. Delete every card that you have saved up on your e-commerce platforms where you buy your stuff from. So wait for 48 hours. If you still feel like yes you want to buy it, then just go buy it. Same goes for hunger, by the way. If you're feeling hungry, then just wait for 30 minutes. Drink some water, wait for 30 minutes, and if you are still feeling that hunger for junk food, then go eat the junk food. But most of the time your hunger will just subdue if you just drink the water and stay calm for 30 minutes. Try to use cash as much as possible, because when we use cash we are physically paying the amount, and then we actually see that yes, the value of this number is dropping. It is not worth spending this money on this product. And there is a saying that goes like this, that if you can't track your money, you can't manage it. That's why we need to track, eliminate, and automate for us to get the investable surplus. Now, what is the investable surplus? Investable surplus is the key to our wealth building journey. To do that, we need to first track our every single expense, means every single penny you are spending, track it. After you track it, you will know that what you need to eliminate. After you have eliminated, you got your investable surplus. Now you can automate it. As soon as your money comes into your account, it just straight up gets swept in into another account and get invested as per your rules you have set. To actually eliminate, you will need to know how you will manage your money that you actually need. 50% goes to your needs, basically things you need to live. 30% goes to your wants, things you want, like going to a party, going to a dine out, or buying that fancy watch or something. 30% of your total money should go to your investment, anything related to future like emergency funds. Goal based reverse engineering is for the 20% part. You will need to calculate your financial independence. Financial independence means your retirement money. Take your total living expenses, multiply it by 12, you will get your annual living expenses. Multiply your annual living expense by 25, you will get 25 years worth of expense you need to survive. You will need to define timeline. Suppose you want to retire at 45, work backward, divide that number by the total months, and after dividing it, add roughly 7 to 8% to it, because that will be the return you will get, because you will also need to pay your capital gain taxes and beat the inflation. So 7 to 8% is a sweet spot. After that, you will get a number. Suppose you have a business and that business will give you 20% return. The stock market will give you roughly 10% return. Then instead of investing that money in stocks, invest that money in your business or anything that will grow your money much faster compared to stock. Now suppose your income is volatile, then what will you do? You can't just straight up invest for $3,000. No, yes, you need to invest $3,000, but you are only earning $2,000. Your essential living cost is $2,000. If you aren't saving, if you aren't having $2,000, you will just go in survival mode. It is much better to have it in kind of dynamic situation. Let's say you earn $5,000, then keep $2,000 for your essential living expense. $3,000 is the amount you need to spend. In next month, when you earn more, like $6,000, maybe even $10,000, keep $2,000 for yourself and invest the rest $8,000 to wherever you plan to invest. Now there is one investment. If you do that, you will earn maybe 100% or even 200%, even 1000% of interest, and that investment is investment in yourself, because frugality has a mathematical floor and income has an infinite ceiling. Suppose you are thinking of buying a bicycle. With the help of bicycle, you can go to your job about 40 minutes faster. You are not buying the bicycle because you want to save the money, but if you just bought the bicycle, you now have 80 minutes and spend that 80 minutes on leveling up yourself by learning a skill, monetizing it by either starting something of yourself or by negotiating with your company to increase your race. Suppose you went to a horse race and there is roughly 10 horses. Take two scenarios. In first scenario, you bet on the horse number 4, and in the second scenario, you bet on the all the 10 of the horses. In the first scenario, your probability of winning is just 10%, but in the second scenario, your probability is 100%, because you will win. You just can't lose the bet. Obviously, in the first scenario, if you won, you will get a lot more money, and in the second scenario, even if you won, you might get less money. But still, in first scenario, if you lose, you will lose every single penny you invested. But in scenario B, you just can't lose. You will just get less money, but it will never be zero. That's why we need index fund. Index fund is like group of stocks where you invest yourself and it will get divided into multiple companies, where even if one company goes bankrupt, another company will take its place, and there are still 50 companies where your money is divided in 50 parts. It just can't go to zero. It will definitely reduce, reduce in some crises, but it just can't go to zero. That's why we invest in index funds. One thing you must never do is timing the market, buying at absolute low and selling at absolute top. You will need to know that when that actual top is and when that actual bottom is. For that, you will need to compete with armies of Wall Street analysis, insider information, supercomputers. It is almost impossible to do that. Only 1 to 3% of people are even able to time the market, so just forget about it. Because historical data prove that even if you miss 10 best performing days, your investment can reduce by 20 years. It is much better to just keep on investing even in highs, even in lows. Now there are three things that generally people do for active investing. Basically investing for the sole purpose of beating the long-term market in short term, like getting all that return that the long-term market will give in 10 years in just 1 year, 2 year, or maybe even a day. But that is a bad idea. Still, I want to let you know about some of the active investing. One of them is stock picking. Basically, you do your own research, you do your homework and pick a stock you want to invest in. Coffee can investing. In this, you actually get the stock you want. Suppose you want to buy a stock of Tesla and you just bought the stock. Now you won't ever touch it. You will just lock it and don't even think about it. If the company grows, it grows. If the company falls, then you are screwed. Your money will go to zero. That's why we don't need that as well. And in stock picking, as I said, it is almost impossible to compete with the supercomputers, Wall Street analysis, the insider information, and there are many things. You just don't want to have the headache of that. The third is active mutual funds. You will need to pay a brokerage fee annually, like your return that gets compound in the exponent time. Same happens for brokerage fee. It also compounds and your total return, total portfolio drops by a lot, sometimes when 20 to 30%. Now the question arises that I'm going to invest in index fund, but how should I split my money? For that, again, we have 50-20-30 rule. You need to invest 50% of your money in large companies. Why? Because large company will give low return, but they are also lower risk. You need to invest 30% in mid cap company, basically medium sized company. Those are somewhat stable, but still not as stable as a large company. There is a bit of risk, but they will give much high return compared to the larger company. And the third is younger companies, basically high risk, high return. You want to invest in them, but only for 20%. Some example of index fund you can invest in for 50, 30 and 20. For 50, you can invest in Nifty 50, the S&P 500, FTSE 100. These number 100, 50, 500, these are the company. The number of company they are from top to bottom, means the top 50 company, top 500 company, top 100 company, like that. Okay, for medium company there is Nifty Next 50, S&P Mid Cap 400, Russell 1000. For small companies it is Mid Cap 150, the Russell 2000 and MSCI. Obviously 50-30-20 rule is not a hard set rule. You can always invest through total world stock index or a total stock market index, as they inherently capture large mid cap and small cap stocks globally without you needing to manually divide your money into 50-30-20 rule or ratio. Now with this you can start investing in your index fund, but you will also need something to actually protect your investment, right? For that we have ETF, the hedge fund and the equity portfolio. ETF is basically the basket of asset like stocks or gold that you can sell instantly. These are for your liquidation purpose. Suppose some emergency happens and now, yes, you had your emergency saving, but still that wasn't enough. You need more money instantly. For that we have exchange traded fund where we can instantly sell our stocks or gold. Property will not come in this because property takes a lot of time to sell. Hedge fund is basically the insurance for the inflation. Suppose something happens and your market crashes, your investments are going downhill, you need something that goes opposite to it. If the money is dropping, you need something that actually increases so that it can balance it out. The best example of that is gold and silver. I will come to gold and silver in a bit. Let me talk about the equity portfolio. Equity is your collection of stock or the ownership in business that you want to protect. Why you want to protect it? Because occasionally stock market routinely experiences bear market where your stocks prices can drop by 20 to 50% during recession or geopolitical crisis. You need to have an hedge fund for a time of crisis when everything is going downhill, and you need some sort of insurance to protect yourself. You need an ETF for sometimes where you will need a liquid fund and you will need it instantly. The gold and silver, they are not something that you use for your investment purposes, for the purpose of increasing your money. They are much better for a hedge fund. So suppose some crisis happens and your country takes a loan from another country, or your country starts printing unlimited money. Technically, you have paper money in a very large number, but the value of the money drops. In year 2000, you want to buy a bike that is roughly of $10,000. You put the money in two places. One, you put $10,000 in a box or in an investment. Second, you put the money as a gold bar. You convert it in gold and you put it there. After, let's say, 20 years or maybe 25 years, you want to buy a bike. Something happened, hyperinflation occurred, and in 20 years there is a lot of money, the value of money dropped. Now your bike costs roughly 40,000 or let's say $25,000. You have $10,000 in cash. That actually didn't increase, but the price of gold that increased to $25,000. So now when you sell the gold, you will get $25,000. See, it just adjusted itself. This is why we need hedge. Obviously, this person didn't invest the $10,000, but we are talking about time where even if the amount you have invested is going downhill, in that situation, there is only one thing: gold. Gold prices will only increase when someone want to pay more for it. Every country will pay more for it because in the time of war, only gold is the thing that is protecting a country from hyperinflation. Now your portfolio is built, but if you have to log everything manually, then you will eventually burn out. You will eventually succumb to your dopamine. We need a investment plan, that is systematic investment plan, SIP, or dollar cost averaging, DCA. In general, lump sum amount will give you much better return, but first of all, we don't have that much money for lump sum amount, and second, it just doesn't make sense to invest just first time. So it is much better to invest monthly because you can invest much more in long term. We need this SIP or DCA because suppose you are seeing TV news and something happens in market, you are getting stressed out and you made some investment mistake because you are always manually investing your money and not doing a sweep in. In that case, SIP is basically a sweep in facility. The money goes into your account and from that account it goes into your SIP. SIP, you set that where you want your money to invest it, and it will just automatically get invested as you set it up. So index fund works by economy. We are investing in economy. We are investing in business that serves people. As the country grows, as the public grow, the company also grows, the economy also grows. As the economy grows, you also get a share of it because you invested in that economy. By that process, by owning an index, you own a piece of all that innovation, ensuring you capture the net growth of entire country corporate output. And that is why I say that invest in index fund. As long as your country didn't screw something bad, you are all good. In index fund, your money don't actually get directly invested by humans. Supercomputers are used for their products. There is a set of program which invest the money as per the stock market. There is also human intervention. Human checks that what computer is doing is correct. It's in very rare cases your investment got stuck or it just get lost somewhere. Then even if that glitches happen, the trade will be flagged and your money will be returned. So you don't have to think about that. Yes, supercomputer is there or maybe a human is there and some glitches can happen and you will get screwed up. That just won't happen. You are now all clear. You have got your defensive measure, you have got your offensive measure. You know not to invest in active investment schemes and why you want to invest long term, the snowball effect, why the index fund is the best choice for beginner, and how index fund works, why you need a hedge fund, why only use gold as a hedge fund, why you need a ETF, why you need a equity portfolio, why you need to protect your equity portfolio. There is no point of earning a lot of money, having a huge bank account and not having any memory of your life. Suppose you want to buy your bike at the age of 26, 25 or maybe 20s, and you are thinking, yeah, I should invest that money for 2 decades, when at 40 I will get lot of money and then I can buy the bike. Yes, you can buy the bike, but what will happen is at that time your body will deteriorate. As your body will deteriorate, you won't be able to enjoy the bike, you won't be able to enjoy the moment, you won't be able to enjoy the life. This is not just about bike, it is about the things you want with your money. You need to always remember, you are earning, you are doing all the investment for just one purpose: to be happy, to enjoy your life. Now a question arises that how will I actually know that what I'm thinking of buying is actually the right decision? How will I know that? Should I just wait just a bit to get a bit more money and then buy that thing? If you want to buy something and you have twice the money for that. Suppose you want to buy a bike for 5,000, you have $10,000 as an expendable cash, then you can just buy it. Obviously this will work for smaller purchases, not for huge purchases like a house. For house, I would recommend that if you can get your monthly installment within 30% range of your income, then go for it. You can buy it. Obviously there is no fixed answer. You will need to live your life, you will need to see and decide that how it will all work. But yep, that's it, and you will meet in the next video. I hope you got something useful from this video. And this channel, the sole purpose of this channel is to clear every single doubt you can have about investing and managing money. So if you want, you can always subscribe. And yep, that's it. Bye bye.